Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you how I created some sounds for one of the bosses in the game Shoot Many Robots. I was the audio lead on this project, which came out a few years back, and it's basically set in a post-apocalyptic world of zombies, but instead of people being the zombies, it's appliances and machinery and all sorts of crazy contraptions. So let's take a look at this one. This is a smelter, which is at the end of level 5 in the game. You can actually get a preview of it in level 1, just behind the action, as it comes in from the top left of the screen. Now, the nickname we had given it was Fat Boy, because it's just this big chunky hunk of metal with a really cranky personality. It's got like 3 big lower teeth, and it's basically going to shoot out jets of oil and then ignite the oil and try to harm the player. But this is one of the final boss battles, and so we want to make this a dramatic moment. One of the things I always consider when creating sounds for creatures and robots and aliens, I think about them just like I would a person. They've got a personality, it's a character, so we need to imbue some personality into our boss character here. And I can tell right away it's this rusty metal, it's got smoke billowing out the back, it's this sooty, greasy, cranky machine. I need flame sounds. It does shoot oil, so I'll need some sort of water bubbling and gushing, perhaps actual oil if I can find a source sound effect for that. And I also have an engine sound. It's this whirring machine. So let me show you how this is put together. This is a program called Vegas, and nowadays I use Reaper, but at the time I was using this with an audio engine called Fmod. And I've got a whole bunch of tracks here. I'm going to minimize this robot here for a minute and just show you a whole bunch of tracks here. Now, I didn't just one day say, oh, I'm going to have all these tracks for this character. It's all something that happens incrementally. We're iterating on it a few hours a day for perhaps several days. And the area in red here is the in point and out point of a loop I'm just going to play. This is just an example of one of the attacks it has in the game. And so I'm just kind of looping a general area. Now, this character has a series of triggers in it, much like a lot of the other characters in the game. This is during the course of its animation, a small coded message will be sent to the audio engine to say, hey, I need you to play this event for me. And that event will be a particular sound effect. And I'm going to mix down the fire, the engine, the squeaks, and the oil all separately. Those will be 4 separate sound effects. And this is my kind of raw mix area here. So let's go ahead and start with the oil. We'll go ahead and pull this down. And we'll see here that my first sound that I put in was called Drain Water Gurgle. This is kind of a flanged or kind of a swirly water sound going through a drain. Let's play this. It has a kind of hollow, swirly consistency to it. And then on the second track, I have some splashing going on. This isn't the complete sound. This is an aspect or a quality of the final sound. And I'll just play you the whole set I have. Just all the oil and water sounds together. So I'll start at the beginning. So I have a little bit of a steam hiss at the beginning, initiating it. And now the second part of it is going to be the squeaks, which is a nice area to work in because we can have a lot of fun with the creakiness of this robot. Let me go ahead and start some arbitrary place, and I'll just call up the squeaks here. And this is, you'll notice down here I've got the letter A, and that's group A. That's going to be my oil, and then anything with a B is going to be my squeaky sounds, metallic metal sounds here. In fact, I'll pull this up, and I'll show you what I mean. Here's the sound of a stall door opening and closing. You can see the robot. That's one aspect of the sound. And then we got one down here. And this is muted. Didn't want that to play. Okay. And I'll just play you all of the B's together so you can hear what they all sound like. Bring this down. sounds pretty good to me. I've also got an engine sound, which I'll play you. This is a series of recordings. This is not something I could create on my own. I had to source these out, and these are all kinds of industrial machines, factories. I have a stamper press in here. I also have a furnace exhaust, and I also have the sound of a Land Rover engine, an air compressor, some steam hiss being released. So I'll play you all of those. And this is just a loop, but other than the steam hisses, it doesn't do much else. It's just there for the backdrop, kind of the underlayment of the sound. And then lastly, I have fire, which is fairly straightforward. This is something I can find some source recordings of fire, what we call off-the-shelf sounds, and can line those up accordingly. So I have several tracks of those as well. Let me play those for you. And that's just the loop right there. And you heard the flamethrower about midway through. See, that's a whole bunch of stuff. I've got steam popping and various types of, I think I have an actual flamethrower in here, and various types of fire recordings. One of the ways I build the sounds, I'll know I have, for example, fire, so I'll gather a whole bunch of fire recordings, either stuff that I may have recorded from my own library, or it could be something, again, off the shelf. It could be part of a library that a company has that they would like me to use, created on their own. And oftentimes it's a blend of all of those things. So here I have sounds of flamethrowers. I'll just give you a preview. It's all different recordings here. All right, and fireball. Now, I don't necessarily use all of these, but I'll gather a whole bunch of sounds that I think I might want to use in a project, and I'll preview them. I'll give them each a listen and see what works. Once I get them in, I'm, of course, applying volume changes, but I may also include effects plugins such as compression, EQ, reverb, and any variety of signal processing. And once I get all the sounds I want in, I'll start previewing them. I'll drop them into the timeline here and see what sticks, see what works with the character, and actually watch the animation. I'll move the animation forwards and backwards. I'll have the video on a separate monitor, and I'll reserve an entire monitor just for the tracks. So I'll have a much wider area to work in. And you can zoom this out a bit. Once I get everything pretty close, or I'm feeling like it's starting to come together, then I'll start mixing those subgroups, the A, B, C, and D together into a final mix. And with Vegas, it's pretty easy. I can have those subgroups up here, A, B, C, and D. And I've already got my sounds laid in, so I'll just start mixing and see what happens. So I'll say, well, let's start with the oil. Turn it down a little bit. And I'll put the squeaks up against it. Good. Let's throw the engine in, but not too loud. And there's your smelter. That's basically it. Now again, that takes several hours over the course of a few days to put together, but you'll kind of know when it's done just by the way it sounds, and also by how much time you have. Nothing helps creativity more than a deadline. If I know I have one day to work on something or 1 week, I'll budget that time and try to make that character the best sounding version of itself it can be with the constraints I have. The cool thing is, I've got it mixed, but in the game, we actually had 4 separate tracks. So at any time, if I felt like, well, I don't want to have to go back and remix it every single time, I could just go into Fmod, the audio engine, or in some cases a text file even, and just change the values of the different track volumes to get it just right. And so again, this is one example of the Boss sound design. And here's the standalone segment of the robot animation. here's another one that shows the death sequence of the robot. And finally, let's check out the robot in the context of the game. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and for listening.